I'm Candy Popham, and I'm the co-founder and executive director at Place for Grace. Place for Grace is where single mamas who need safe housing can come, and they learn about everything that a mama needs to know. So they can learn things like even just their GED and getting their high school diploma, to college education, to parenting skills and homemaking skills, cooking, cleaning, budgeting, all of those things. That's what they do here at Place for Grace. It's really about using the situation they're in as a tool to tell them who Jesus really is, so that they get to spend eternity in home with us, not just live in the Place for Grace home. So it's an amazing thing for me to think about, because we're sitting in the living room at Taylor's place. It's part of Place for Grace, and it's the home that will be the first home that we welcome mamas in to live with us as part of a Christian family. In the very beginning, back in 2017, when I spoke for the very first time out in public and shared what the vision of Place for Grace was, we had nothing at that point. It was just a vision of what I believed God had laid on my heart that He wanted this ministry to become. And so we went and we shared, and during that time there was a gentleman in the audience, and he began to ask questions and say things like, "It sounds like you're going to need a home." I said, "Yeah, we're going to need a home someday." And he said, "Well, what do you want in a home?" I said, "Well, if we could have, oh goodness, 3 bedrooms would be amazing, or 1.5 baths would be ideal, because we're going to have pregnant mamas there, and we don't need to be sharing a bathroom as much, and that would be ideal." And he says, no, that's your needs. What do you want? And I said, "Oh, if we could have our needs met, that's what I want. If God will just meet our needs, that's what we want." And he pressed and he said, "No, I want you to tell me, what are your wants?" And we all make a joke about this in the ministry now, because I'm so embarrassed about what came out of my mouth, because I was feeling so pressured about what he was asking in my first time telling the story of what we thought we wanted. And so I said, if we could have a place that would let us have chickens, that would be amazing. He leaned over and he said, "I have somewhere you need to come see." And I leaned back and I said, "Tom, I checked on the way here. Our bank account has $520 in it." He leaned back and he said, "I don't think that matters. You need to come see." Later, Tom told me that what he heard in his heart when I said $520 was, "That sounds like 5 loaves and 2 fish." And it turns out it really was 5 loaves and 2 fish. And so we came and we looked at this property on October 4th of 2017. It's so strange to me, because it was almost the second that I crossed the property line, I knew without a doubt that the Holy Spirit was here and that He was saying, "This is home." But I didn't understand what that meant, because I had $520 in the ministry account, and how could, I didn't know that I even believed it, because I thought, how could God provide this on $520? This property was listed at $320,000. It is more than we could have ever dreamed or imagined that Place for Grace would ever even be. And so then in my humanness, I started trying to figure it out. And I thought, okay, this is cool, Lord. You just had me do some research on how do you hold a fundraiser when all you have is a vision. And in that training, I learned you find something concrete and you utilize that to cast the vision and show people like, hey, if we had a living room like this, we could hold Bible study here. We could allow mamas to rest for the first time in their life and not have to feel like they have to protect themselves. So I said, Tom, because Tom was the one showing us the house. I said, Tom, could you ask the owners, can we take videos and still pictures and things in the home and utilize this home as an example at our very first Flannel Fest and show people what we could do if we had a home similar to this? And he goes, yeah, I'll ask them. And so he comes back and he said, they said, yeah, you could use it. But I also need to tell you that when I explained to them what you wanted to do, they said, can you tell me what the organization is? He said, so I shared with them what you shared with us at the meeting. And they said, Tom, did you know that we adopted our daughter? He said, yeah, I knew that. And he said, do you know that her mama spent time in a facility like what you're talking about? And so we came in, we started taking photos, we started doing those things, but I knew it wasn't it. We knew it wasn't it. And so we brought the rest of the board back and we all looked at the home and we all four agreed. Actually, we stood out in the kitchen and we prayed. There was no island there. It was where we prayed. And I don't remember the whole thing, but I remember one of the things I said that day was, God, I don't know what this looks like. I don't even know how to take a first step, but you're asking me to take a step and we're going to do it. And we all prayed and we all said yes that day. And God provided in amazing, miraculous ways that I don't even know if I even understand every single detail of all the things that he did, but he did it and he did it fast. And so we did small fundraiser. We ended up with $6,000 off of that fundraiser. And then we went to a bank, a local bank, and the local bank basically said to us, your finances don't support the fact that you could hold a mortgage. However, if you can meet these 3 criteria, we'll do it because we believe in the ministry, which was so cool to me. That is a God thing right there. What bank says that? And so one of the criteria was we had to come up with $60,000. Our offer that was accepted on this home was $300,000. Another criteria was that we had to have approximately 6 months of house payments in a bank account, which was our $6,000 that the Lord had already provided to us that we didn't know. And so we started raising the $60,000 as our down payment. And so the people who owned the home previous to us, they had agreed to give us a second mortgage that would be kind of off the books so that we could pay that back and it would be the down payment, because they knew once we had talked about who we were and what their situation was, they believed this home was ours as well. And so they were willing to do that with us. So that was $30,000. And then Tom was the realtor on it. He gave his commission off of it, which was another $10,000. So we were up to 40 and we were down to 20 days before we were going to close. I went to a new Bible study. I've been there maybe one other time before this, and it was women that I knew a couple of them, but I didn't know them. And they were talking about different things, and somebody brought up Place for Grace, and the leader said, Candy, just tell us what Place for Grace is. And I started telling what Place for Grace is and what we wanted to do, and that we had the opportunity to purchase a home, but we still had $20,000 to raise in 20 days. And my marketing brain says, ooh, 20,000 in 20, that's a great, let's just go with that. We all prayed, left that night and got home. And when I sat back in my chair, my phone dinged, and I looked, and it was one of the women from the Bible study, and she said, count my family in for 5,000. And I was like, okay, Lord, you ask us to do this, and that quick, you provide a quarter of what needs to be provided. And I was like, okay, here we go. So literally all we did was I would come out to the house and I would take a little video, a live video, and I would say, in this kitchen, this is what we could do. And here's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to give $10, and then you ask 3 of your friends to give $10. And if you all do that and they ask their 3 friends to give $10, we're gonna raise $20,000 in 20 days. We didn't raise $20,000 in 20 days. We raised over $21,000 in 20 days, because God doesn't just provide, God provides over in abundance. If I had to say anything about any way that this has happened, that would be what I would say, is don't just expect God to provide. God provides in abundance because it's all His. And this story is miraculous in the way that it happened. So we raised our $21,000. But about 10 days so before we were to close on the loan, one of our former board members, she had connected with a couple, and that couple wanted to interview me. And so we jumped on a call. By this time, Tom was the president of the board. And so we jump on a call and we get interviewed. But this wasn't like your typical interview. This was probably the most intense, deepest interview I've been through in my life. It was really like interviewing my heart is what I felt like. Probably 20 minutes or so in, they were like, okay, you have any questions for us? And I'm like, I don't even know what this is about. How do I even know what to ask? But Tom says, yeah, you've heard a lot about Place for Grace and you've heard a lot about Candy's heart. Like, what do you think about Place for Grace? And he spoke up and he said, I'll tell you exactly what we think about Place for Grace. We think that you're going to need more funds in your pocket to be able to get this up and rolling. And we believe it's worth doing. And so we would like to offer you a 0% interest mortgage. And we're looking at each other like, did he just say what we think he just said? And so then we ask more questions like, what does this look like? And he's like, well, what term is your bank giving you? Well, 30 years at blah, blah, blah interest. And he's like, okay, we'll do that, 0% interest. Okay. Okay, so the 20% down? He's like, no. What amount do you need? And I said, am I understanding that you're not requiring us to put 20% down? He's like, you tell me what amount you believe you need, and that's what we will give. God just does things that are nothing to him. It's just a word from his mouth. But to us, it's so life transforming and just so shocking sometimes that it's just incredible to be able to witness. My life will never ever be the same every single day that he allows me to be a part of Place for Grace. And so that next year, what really happened was he sent people, he sent resources, and the whole entire inside of the home has been completely remodeled. It's just crazy to me when I sit and I think about how many people God used to actually bring this to reality and do all the things that he did here. It's just crazy. Like, there's no way anyone could organize this. It's just an amazing God that we serve. And I hope that every breath that's left in me till my dying day proclaims that, because I've got to see things that I don't believe a lot of people on earth get to see. And why he chooses me to do it, I don't know, but I'm so, so thankful that he does.